So this whole talk about the Miami Dolphins blowing things up, selling half the roster for future dreams? Yeah, that was never really happening, was it? Maybe people wanted to believe it because panic feels safer than patience. But even when it looked like the walls were closing in, even when whispers turned into sources, you could just feel it. Miami wasn't going to torch the house. Not this time. Not when things still feel unfinished, unresolved, alive in that weird, frustrating way. But still, when the trade deadline came and went and not one single move dropped, you couldn't help but blink twice. 0 trades? Nothing. For a team sitting where they are? It didn't make sense on paper. But then again, when has this team ever done what the spreadsheet says? Reports came in, calls were made. Teams poking around, curious, maybe even desperate. Jalen Waddle's name was floating. Bradley Chubb's too. ESPN said they listened. And sure, they listened, because every team listens. But that doesn't mean they were ready to let go. Trading Waddle, just for the sake of looking busy? For the illusion of a reset? That would have been the real mistake. He's only 27 next month, still right in the middle of that sharp prime, where every snap feels like it could explode. His deal's friendly, too, manageable cap hit, no guaranteed salary after 2026. You don't throw that away, because the wind's blowing weird in November. And then there's Chubb. Yeah, you could build an argument there. You could look at the injuries, the contract, the age creeping closer to the wrong side of 30, and convince yourself it's time. He's got that look of a player who might be too expensive to keep, too proud to move quietly. But still, they didn't pull the trigger. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe they didn't like the offers. Maybe they remembered that behind the stat sheet and the rehab reports, Chubb's still one of the voices in that locker room that actually matters. You hear other names too. Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yeah, the irony, right? He left once, made his mark elsewhere, and now people were wondering if he'd circle back. Edge rusher Matthew Judon, corner Rasul Douglas, rookie Jalen Wright thrown in as a maybe somebody. All those whispers floating in the wind. But every call that came through just felt off. Too small. Too uncertain. Miami didn't get that one offer that made you stop mid-conversation and go, wait maybe. Apparently, for Waddle, they wanted a first-rounder and more. That's not a price tag, it's a statement. It's a dare. It's saying, yeah, we'll talk, but only if you're ready to hurt. And clearly, nobody was. With Chubb, nobody really knows what the actual asking price was. Maybe a second-round pick. Maybe less. Maybe more. But whatever it was, it didn't move the needle. So he stays. And for all the chaos, all the rumors, that's the piece that matters. He's still in aqua and orange, still in that locker room, still looking like a guy with something left to prove even if the math says otherwise. And then you turn your head to New York, and there it is, the Jets. The ever-annoying, always loud, drama-fueled Jets. They went full chaos mode, unloading Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner like they were handing out flyers. In return, 3 first-round picks, a second-rounder, a couple of names like Adonai Mitchell and Motzie Smith thrown in to make the headlines look shiny. Dolphins fans watched that unfold, and you could feel the envy drip through social media. The idea of stacking up draft capital, hoarding it like ammunition for some glorious rebuild. Tempting, right? Especially when your season's already circling the drain. But that kind of plan looks a lot better on Twitter than it does on the field. Because sure, the Jets just cashed in on 2 of their best defenders. Both under 30. Both the kind of players you don't trade unless you've already decided you're fine with losing for a while. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe the Jets are fine with that. The Dolphins aren't. Not yet. Not when the owner's watching. Not when the coach's future hangs by a thread that might snap the minute they give up. And let's be honest, Miami doesn't have anyone who'd bring back the kind of treasure the Jets just got. Waddle. Maybe close, but not quite that high. A chain. Electric, sure, but running backs don't move the market like corners or tackles do. You could offer a star running back in his prime and still get less than you expect. The league's just wired that way. So what are we left with? The same roster, the same faces, the same questions. A 2-7 team trying to find oxygen in a season that's already coughing. Jaelan Phillips is gone. Traded to Philly for a third-round pick that barely feels real when you say it out loud. Everything else stands still. They'll roll into the second half of the season with what they've got, hoping that somewhere in the chaos there's still a heartbeat. Maybe that's blind faith. Maybe it's stubbornness. Maybe it's something in between. Next offseason, different story. They'll have another shot to reevaluate. Maybe dangle Chubb again. Maybe listen on someone new. But for now, no fire sale. Just silence. Just waiting. And that silence, it says more than any trade ever could. Because if they really believed this roster was dead, they'd have pulled the plug already. The fact that they didn't, yeah, that tells you there's still belief somewhere in that building. Maybe not loud belief, maybe not confident belief, but belief all the same. Of course, there's a price to standing still. If Chubb's not on this team in 2026, and let's be real, that's looking likely, then Miami loses twice. Once by keeping him now, and again by getting nothing later. He won't be a free agent next offseason, which means no compensatory pick. Nothing. Just a goodbye and a quiet reminder that timing matters more than loyalty in this league. And somewhere behind all that, behind the spreadsheets and trade calls, sits Mike McDaniel, the quiet variable nobody wants to talk about but everyone feels. He's still the head coach, still technically safe for the 2025 season, but the ground isn't steady. Everyone knows it. Every decision from here on out is under the same microscope. He's the kind of coach who believes in control, in systems, in trust. But when your record looks like a bruise and your roster's getting picked apart on talk shows, that control starts to crack. And the idea of shipping players out for draft picks? That's not what a man fighting for his job signs off on. So you wonder, how much of this was McDaniel pushing back? How much was him saying, no, not yet? Because the timing feels deliberate. The Jets can afford to burn it down. They've got a rookie coach, a rookie GM. Time to rebuild their image. Miami doesn't have that luxury. This is survival mode. The owner, Stephen Ross, has seen too many false starts. Too many promises that never made it past December. If this season ends in smoke, the coach's seat won't just be hot, it'll be molten. So McDaniel needs wins. He needs something to show. Trading away the few pieces that can still change games? That's suicide. So yeah, no fire sale. No grand reset. Just a stubborn kind of defiance that might either save them or bury them deeper. And maybe that's fitting for this team. They've never been the type to go quietly. Not under Ross. Not under McDaniel. Every step forward comes with a stumble. Every good thing somehow shadowed by a what-if. You can almost picture the locker room after the deadline passed. Quiet at first, players checking their phones, waiting for alerts that never came. Then the silence breaks. Maybe a laugh. Maybe a sigh of relief. Maybe both. Because now it's all on them. The front office didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't bail them out or cut them loose. They can either tighten a team together or tear it apart from the inside. We'll see which one this version of the Dolphins becomes. But make no mistake, this wasn't a team too scared to move. It was a team trying to prove that staying still can sometimes be just as bold as blowing it up. It's strange, though, how you can feel both relief and frustration at the same time. Relief that they didn't just dump talent for picks that might never pan out. Frustration because doing nothing feels like drifting. And somewhere in between all that noise sits the truth. This is still a team caught between who they were supposed to be and who they actually are. No trades. No Band-Aids. Just time. Time for McDaniel to show if his vision still works. Time for Waddle to remind everyone why he's untouchable. Time for Chubb to prove the price was worth it. Time for a roster that's been questioned all season to either find a pulse or fade for good. The Dolphins didn't sell. Maybe they should have. Maybe they still will. But right now, this moment, it feels like one last stand.